Philadelphia. I gotta be honest with you, making fun of the Cowboys is... well, it's still funny. Let's not pretend like it isn't. But it is not getting as fun for me anymore. I think the rivalry is officially over for me. I don't know what it is. It's just the Micah Parsons thing, I think, actually did it. Thank goodness for our good friend James Nankenvel, as we love him and we know him in the Discord as Nanks, who joined me yesterday all the way from Australia, and we got down and dirty about the Dallas Cowboys, what we think of this Eagles roster, and a lot more, including flying to Canada to learn how to become an Eagles fan, which is a fantastic story. Here's me and Nanks. How are things in Australia right now?
Well, things are as they typically are, mate. It's all going pretty well. We're just coming out the other side of winter. It's been very spring-like in the last couple of weeks of winter here in Melbourne, and looking forward to getting into the throes of NFL season while the AFL season hits finals at the same time.
I've been contemplating this. I really would love your perspective on it, because as somebody who hated the Cowboys fans immediately, even before I became an Eagles fan, I don't know if you know all the history, but the Buffalo Bills losing 4 Super Bowls in a row, Cowboys being responsible for that. I already hated them from a national perspective. And for 25 years, we got the bad side of that history. And now that the Eagles have essentially replaced all of that crap from the 90s, they're the most dominant team in the NFC East.
Yeah.
The Dallas Cowboys trade away Micah Parsons. They start to they start to look like the Philadelphia Flyers, and you probably don't know their history, but the owner and Jerry Jones, they're like the exact same person. So
yeah, right.
I'm actually in a point where Nanks, I don't care about the Cowboys as much anymore. And I'm a person that will always say, you're an idiot if you think our Giants are the rivals, etc. I don't know if it's just the owner of the Commanders that's too much in my head. I hate the Commanders way more than the Cowboys at this point. The Cowboys are just silly to laugh at.
I see what you mean. And the story with the Commanders is it's the same owners as the Sixers, right?
Yeah, there's some local Philly politics, which I know you're who gives a shit about that? And I totally understand that too. It's just something that's always in my head because he's in the city all the time. But yes, yeah.
Look, ultimately, I still think that the funnest team to beat as an Eagles fan is going to be the Cowboys. It doesn't matter what state they're in. The national media is always going to be still riding them and acting as if they're in with a chance. They're always a contender when they're literally never a contender. Washington now, I think they're the team most to be feared in our division. There's no question about that. But there's no way I've got the level of hate for the Commanders that I do for the Cowboys. And it was no coincidence that my pilgrimage to the Link a few years ago was to see an Eagles-Cowboys game and to feel that vibe, and I was not disappointed. Man, the chirp from all of the people I was sitting around towards any Cowboys fan within earshot of us was just legendary all night. It was so much fun. But the Cowboys eventually, they can't be dog shit forever, one wouldn't imagine, but I still think they're the funnest team to beat.
It still is at the right time, because even with what happened, the Cowboys usually start out okay if Dak is healthy. I think this changes things, obviously, with Micah Parsons not being there a week before the season, but I'm kind of with you. If it's a random Thursday night that they have to play, if it's late in December, it does feel good. If it's on a Thanksgiving day, it does feel good. When the whole national stage is watching and Australia is watching, I still love it. I just don't have the same type of bite, and I don't feel bad for them either. I don't want to give that impression.
Sure.
I love that they're down and ugly. There's so little to pick away from them. The Giants gave us a Super Bowl last year. I would love to remind them of that still. And maybe I just need this game for the course correction is all. I need them to do something stupid or just beat us, maybe. That'll make me mad. I don't foresee that happening.
Look, if things went horribly sideways next week, that would be a shock to the system, there's no doubt. It doesn't feel possible. It just feels like everything in that locker room right now must be just awful. There is no way any one player on that team thinks that their team got better this week. And that's got to feel shit, especially for the other guys on that defense, especially for the guys in the secondary on that defense. They're going to have to keep coverage a little longer each play because they know Mike is not there to get home. They know their job just got harder. And the reason it got harder is because their owner is a complete fucking maniac.
Yeah. He might be, I don't want to suggest, but he looks on the precipice of being a psychotic, it's just that another 2 or 3 years. He might be, and the money is just kind of holding him up. Whatever drugs they're pumping into him, or embalming fluid, or who knows what into that soul of his. I'm with you. There's a sense that this is like the ultimate collapse, and if it is that, then I'm throwing everything I said out the window. I'll stomp on Jerry's fire and enjoy the burning.
They're going to keep getting propped up, on a national scale as being a contender. Then we get to keep stomping them down, and that's not going to stop being fun until people finally stop dick riding Jerry Jones and the Cowboys into some kind of brainwashed delusion that it's still their golden era, which was decades ago.
Yeah, and Nanks, I'm sorry, it's going to continue to happen because now the NFL owns ESPN, and they wanted to put Jerry on all summer. So it's going to happen until he dies, and we just have to sit there with it. But you did say something that I keep thinking too. This week, a lot of people just suddenly went, Packers are now the biggest threat to the Philadelphia Eagles. Packers are now a contender with, Parsons there. Did I miss something? Is Micah Parsons that much of an impactful player, especially for the Green Bay defense, to suddenly go, oh, yeah, you know what? Jordan Love's wide receivers are totally fine. The offensive line is totally fine. And Micah Parsons is going to take care of it. I don't see that at all. It makes them better. I don't know if it makes them a contender.
I completely agree. I mean, we see superstar defenders on mediocre teams all around the league. We see the Cleveland Browns be dog shit year after year, despite Myles Garrett absolutely tearing shit up off their edge. We see the Steelers just kind of limp into losing in the wild card round or something like that with TJ dominating and wrecking plays off the edge. I don't think that the Green Bay Packers were one gun edge away from suddenly being in the NFC Championship game. I don't see it.
And I hate to sound like a Cowboys fan right now, but you have a Green Bay defense who was already really bad against the run, and now you're adding a guy who's also really bad against the run, but spectacular with everything else. Just like what we're going to see on Thursday night. Anytime that we play the Packers, Saquon and the offensive line take care and neutralize that problem almost instantly. And even if it doesn't, we all saw the Super Bowl. Like, it's just, you're going to still have the same problems with this Eagles team. There's not, if anything, we can argue about the margins of what Howie's doing. I've had a confusing and very bad offseason in terms of trying to predict stuff, by the way. I don't see that. And let's just jump into that too. Like, overall impressions with the roster. What sticks out to you?
Youth of the defense sticks out to everyone, I think. I've been thinking about it a bit this week, just watching the roster kind of take shape and the daily, machinations and Howie being Howie. I think that the two things about this roster that stick out the most to me is this defense is super young. It is super inexperienced, and a lot of guys that we're relying on to deliver on game days are projections. They are guys that we've seen a bit of that have shown up in spots, but we need them now to carry a full season of that level that we hope that they're at for that defense to hold up. On the other side of it, I see an offense that just looks like it has to be the best offense in the NFL. It is so deep. It has so many different ways to hurt you. And every idea that my very uneducated, not at all an NFL defensive coordinator's brain can come up with, you're going to stack the box against Saquon, no problem. We'll spread that out. We've got such an array of pass catchers now when you consider that Dotson has had the offseason that he's had, getting Jalen's trust, and we know how important that is for Jalen to look up and just pull the trigger when he sees a set of numbers that he likes. And I think that extra player, that extra wide out, an extra option that he can just pull that trigger and make that fast decision on is going to make that passing game all the stronger. On top of just, you heard him say it in a press conference a little while ago, which I just love this answer, and normally his press conference is so platitudes and just trying to get out of there kind of thing, but asked about what confidence he'd gained from the Super Bowl win. And he actually thought about it and said, well, yeah, because when you've done something, you feel like you can do it again. As much as that's such a basic kind of idea, but if you get under the hood of it and what we know about Jalen and what we've seen his struggles be at various points throughout the early stage of his career, him having an extra level of confidence to pull the trigger on throws, I mean, damn, how high is this guy's ceiling going to get?
Oh, incredibly high. And this is something I've been holding on to for weeks, is I don't know if you're familiar with who Sam Hinkie is. Sam Hinkie was, I feel as though Jalen Hurts thinks more like him. And at the quarterback position, I think that's incredibly unique because whether you want to compare it to Sam Hinkie, some people in the baseball world compare it to a guy named Greg Maddux, who was a Hall of Famer, very smart guy, didn't have a lot of stuff, just, knew what to do, played the long game. And there's a story that Greg Maddux tells and a couple other people tell that, like, he gave up a home run to this guy named Jeff Bagwell in a regular season game because he thought, I'm going to see this guy in the World Series in the playoffs, and he's going to be looking for that pitch again. And son of a bitch, struck him out that entire playoff series. And Jalen, I think, thinks the same way. That's what pisses off A.J. Brown. That's what pisses off Devontae Smith. That's what pisses off everybody because he's really a coach with the longest view in the room, and it sucks to do that in a 4-quarter game, right? I don't think he's so far ahead that he's thinking week 16 or anything like that,
No.
but he is thinking about the next time he sees you. And one of the things that I saw from this offseason, if you saw that clip with Jordan Mailata mic'd up the past 2 weeks, where he's sitting there telling Will Shipley, hey, Will, great route, great catch. You were doing some of the things in the offseason where instead of 8 yards wide, you need to be 9. You were too wide. You need to be tight. And that's the first time we really heard Jalen Hurts, the coach, with Jordan responding to that. And I'm just going, holy shit, man. I think this was the plan all along. Nick Sirianni was never a play caller. No. I don't think that's what he was doing. He was trying to teach Jalen how to operate the offense the way he wants it with all these offensive coordinators coming in. All the language you were describing in that press conference plus that Will Shipley clip reminds me of 2 guys, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, obsessive with being at your spots, not having the entire tools. And they've said the same things. I think he's just obsessed with the game theory, obsessed with, yes, I'm not going to go to my third read because my legs are fucking awesome. I don't throw an interception when I use my legs, and people hate that stuff. I agree, not only that, but what you said with the youth group of it, because these are a bunch of, well, at least from Jalen's side, that's a 40-year-old man's head in a 27-year-old body. I think that's drifting over to Jalen Carter. I think that's drifting over to Jordan Davis. Yeah. And what you said about those guys have to step up, I'm starting to see that too. Whether it's fan fiction bullshit, I'm buying into it about him hyping guys up at training camp, being that leader, teaching all these people. And the fact that CB2 is still up in the air means they got to bring it. It's a stupid thing to go, what if Jalen Carter gets better? Well, shit. Then CB2's not a problem because the quarterback's going to have half of a second instead of 0.75 or 0.1, whatever it is. So I'm with you, Nanks. I think there's the youth group plus the outright disrespect, let's just call it, of Jalen Hurts this offseason molds into this nuclear bomb that no one's really going to expect the first 8 weeks. Maybe through the air, too, On
that defense and on that, how young and inexperienced and, I guess, reliant it is on some of these guys living up to their projections. We know that this isn't the final formation of this roster. We know that it's not going to be. That's not how Howie works. He's got 3/3 burning a hole in his pocket right now. What do you think is the position? And I think we'd agree the defense is where any interesting player acquisition would happen. What position do you think would be top of the list?
Your head can't go anywhere else than corner because you could argue safety, and I would say that that's so taken care of depth-wise between Sidney, Makuba, and even Cooper DeJean if you got to move him back there. Epps had to come back. So,
onto the practice squad.
I think either safety or corner I'd be fine with, but I'm kind of with you where I think this is more how we just lined something up for the deadline. They're going to go with what they got, and it seems like they were expecting a deal that didn't happen.
See, I don't agree that something on the secondary is the number one need. With the structure of, and we know how Fangio defense works. We know it's that too high shell that is there to try and protect the cornerbacks and stop the big explosives. We've got the side-to-side speed guys in Makuba and Reed and Sidney who can get across and help out if that CB2 gets burned on occasion. To me, it's got to be an edge. I just don't think we've got a guy that we can really rely on to speed up that clock the way you talk about on the quarterback, so that there's not as much time for that play to develop. I think they've got to get downfield to get anything on us, because over the middle, we've got these absolute freak linebackers all of a sudden, which is so weird to be talking about as a Birds fan. That we've got the linebacker position locked down right now with these guys, as well as Coop running around across the middle out of the nickel. And I think we just need one more really quality guy to complete that edge group. Because, hey, Jalex Hunt right now, we've seen flashes of him. He looks like a good athlete, but he was always a project. And he is suddenly not a project real damn fast. And he's going to be out there with the bullets live in just a few days. And if that doesn't look like everything it needs to look like, yikes, we're looking at some retread guys that we basically got off the street, desperately hoping that the guys in the middle are getting home for us. You know what I mean?
There's nothing wrong, and I wouldn't be mad if Howie's very aggressive with a new edge. The only person that I can think of still is Trayvon Walker at this point. I've been yelling his name since March, since he's on fifth-year option and the Jaguars stink. I think that's a very big possibility within the first 6 weeks of the season that they're like, all right, fine, let's just do this thing. I will say this, though. I don't think Josh Sweat is that great of a player overall comparatively to what's here. Nolan Smith had a higher ceiling than Josh Sweat, and it took Josh Sweat even 2 or 3 years to get to where he was, and most of that Super Bowl success was because of the other three guys. Like, they were doubling JC, they were kind of doubling JD, and, you know, they were chipping Nolan Smith and leaving that one empty. And they even said that on camera. What's your job? I just got to go kill the quarterback. Right now, that fourth edge or fifth edge is really simple job. However, I'm with you. I want way more firepower if you can get it. I'm not comfortable with Uche's old bones and the hamstring going out and, like, who knows, and expecting Jalex Hunt to be a full-time starter after what you just said. I agree with you, too. I don't necessarily think he's going to be an all-pro right away. Maybe he could be a Pro Bowler, but, man, that's a lot of pressure for a mid-round pick again. So
yeah, and look, if I'm thinking about how you try and beat this Eagles defense, I don't think it's super complicated from an idea perspective. It's get in the no huddle and go. Don't let them sub.
Yep.
You know, we're relying on rotating these edges so they can constantly be just going with speed. And if we're relying on the surrounding cast of JC in the middle to be getting the pressure in there, well, I mean, we know we haven't seen it yet from JD. We know he's trimmed down. We know he's going to hopefully have more gas in the tank this year, but we haven't seen it. And there's no Milton. And we're relying on Moro Ojima and a bunch of kids who, again, they look great. All the reports sound great. But, boy, it just feels like there's going to be a game where this group suddenly looks as inexperienced as they are. That's what scares me the most coming into this year.
Oh, yeah, 100%. It's just it's hard to maintain yourself as a number one defense, even if it was just they didn't win a Super Bowl. Like, that's just a hard thing to keep together. We'll see. Honestly, like, I think there are holes, but are the holes big enough to destroy the whole thing? That's where I'm kind of like, probably not.
I agree.
You know?
And the main reason I agree is I think this offense can boat race anybody.
Yep. And I kind of get the impression that they're expecting we got to score more points this year. Their whole training camp suggested, you know, it's the more snaps in the run, more snaps in the pass. The things you said about working out with Jahad Dotson, going over the middle. Dallas Goedert telling he's got something to prove. So it's just kind of like you have all these guys. Jalen now trusts 4 of his pass catchers, or 5, I guess, if you want to include Saquon. I get the feeling that we're going to get the traditional quarterback that everybody's been waiting for with Jalen Hurts, whatever the fuck that means, by the way.
Yeah, because, I mean, he's still got to be using the legs. Yes. That's such a huge part of what makes this offense so hard to play against, that you think you've got everything locked down. You think you've got enough in the box to put us off handing it off to Saquon, and you think you've got a nice too high shell that's taking care of AJ and Smitty getting downfield. Everything is looking buttoned up, and suddenly Jalen's jogging past the first down line because he's just seen a little wrinkle and off he goes, and it doesn't even look like he's running that hard yet, and he slides down, doesn't even take a hit, and we saw him do it so often last year where it didn't look like he was trying to break one and go all the way. He was just going to run for some empty grass. He was going to slide down safe. Nobody was going to get a hit on him. And here we are again with a fresh set of downs. And I think these guys can just do things in so many different ways. I don't know how you defend them. I really don't.
It's so fucking hard. It's so hard. And I think that's exactly where I keep getting to. It's that perception of whatever Jalen Hurts is. Next thing you know, he's scoring a touchdown with his legs against the Rams in a playoff game. Because it's just kind of like, oh, we didn't expect it. It's like, that's the point. And I wish there was someone, literally anybody nationally, that could look at it from that way and go, man, what Jalen lacks as an elite passer, this is an anomaly that we should be freaking out about, because this guy primarily runs the ball, helps his running back dictate the lanes to go. They're both generational together. So, like, I don't know. It looks to me like they're breaking the mold. Everybody's kind of mentioned that with the Eagles. Everybody's going to smaller defensive ends, smaller inside guys, smaller linebackers. So they go, all right, well, NFL? Here's 9 yards at a time. Isn't that better? It's just as good as a 9-yard pass, and everybody's like, I don't like it. This isn't football.
Like, you know what? Let them underestimate us. Let them keep underestimating us. I couldn't think of anything more fun for every week for the national media to be, the wheels have got to fall off this sometime. Like, do they? Why? Because of what? We just absolutely smoked the team that's supposed to be the dynasty team of this generation in a Super Bowl, and they still can't see it. I don't know what they need to see, man. And I can't wait for another season of watching and do it. And, as much as I enjoy watching really good defensive play and just choking a team out and then running it down their throats, we all know how much fun it is to see the scoreboard run up. And I think we're going to see some fireworks from this offense.
I am totally fine with the 18-wheeler coming down a 30-degree grade and some asshole trying to be like, I'll tackle this. Because that seems like every plan against the Eagles offense, which is awesome. James Nanks, you're deep into the AFL. So I see your tweets all the time. And I think the AFL is much better than Canadian football. And I'm surprised it's not a bigger thing out here, to be honest with you. What's the best thing about AFL?
It's probably that it is its uniqueness, really, is what makes it kind of special, that no other countries play this sport. They're desperately trying to export it and get other countries, people in other countries interested. We've been getting a lot of guys who are flaming out at the top of college basketball and not going pro. They're trying to convert guys like that over to the sport, into specialist positions. They're forever hoping that there'll be people from other countries really latch on to the game, but there's just nothing. The only sport close to it in the world is Ireland's Gaelic football, which is a similar game, but they use basically a soccer ball.
Oh, cool.
So
rugby more like a thing in Australia? Is it just is AFL kind of like the sister to it?
The two sports are very much in competition. Rugby is much bigger in New South Wales and Queensland, whereas AFL is the number one football code in the rest of the country. And even in New South Wales and Queensland, they have two of the most successful modern teams are the Brisbane Lions and Sydney Swans, and they get pretty good crowds. Nonetheless, rugby league and union will always be the number one codes in those states. But yeah, the rest of the country, it's an AFL country.
Because I always pictured Jordan Mailata being like a dominant AFL player, and I was surprised that rugby. He never even tried it.
There's not a lot of complementary skills. I mean, the ability to kick accurately over sort of short to medium distances, as well as just agility and enormous endurance, is what you need to be an AFL player. You can't just be super big. You can't. These guys run crazy distances in a game, and it's nonstop. It's not like NFL in particular, where obviously there's breaks in between plays. And even in rugby, where everything's will slow to almost a walk for a scrum or a line out or whatever it might be, in AFL, they are sprinting for a really high percentage of the game. And the game goes for, you've got about 2 hours of playing time out there.
So it's really just like you got to have a wide receiver body, a kicker's prowess, and that's pretty much the AFL.
Yeah, but the punter's prowess in NFL is just bombing high and long with some accuracy, right? But these guys have to essentially execute quarterback passes with their feet, where you'll be kicking
I'm already
a ball.
In, Nanks.
Oh man, it's an amazing sport to watch once you sort of get into it. And like anything, going to a game live gets you the better feel of what's going on out there, so you can see the whole field. You can get a better idea of the distances between players and all that kind of thing. Most sports are pretty hard to pick up on TV. That being said, that's where I picked up American football, was just watching it on television when I was living in Canada for a brief period, just because there's so much time between all of the plays. The commentators teach you the game, and you just, look up some of the terms that you're not familiar with. And before too long, you start to get the feel of it a little better. And the only sport I've been able to pick up before going to a live game.
And that was my next question, actually, too, Nanks. I kind of remember the story of how you became an Eagles fan. When you were in Canada, was there just some rabid Eagles person who was like, you got to watch the birds?
Yeah. Initially, I tried to get myself into hockey, right? Because you're in Canada, it's the thing to do, is try and get into hockey, and that should be the the social connector to be watching games with people, but I just couldn't follow the puck or the formations of the players. I was just sort of watching a blur with no real understanding of what was going on, so that wasn't doing it for me. And as I started to get a bit of a sense and a feel for American football, I was working at a bar at the time, and my boss there, the head bouncer there, is this big unit who one day, very early on, I rock up and he's wearing an Eagles ball cap. And so I just started making conversation with him, just saying, oh, yeah, and I had literally just watched an Eagles game. I don't recall against who. And he's like, oh, well, you're a Birds fan? And my brain just kind of went into default and said, just generally speaking, say yes to this huge man who's he's really got your life in your hands as you spend a winter in Whistler trying to be a front door bouncer at a nightclub for some reason. So I just kind of went, yeah, absolutely. And his response was, amazing. You come watch the game with me and my buddies on Sundays. And suddenly I'm like, oh, you beauty. Now I've got a new crew and just hanging out watching Eagles games with a bunch of Canadian guys, and they were all mad for it. And so I learned a lot really quickly just watching with people who already, were fans of the game.
And what year was this approximately, Nate?
This was in the season of 03-04.
Oh man, dude, that is like one of the perfect times to become an Eagles fan. So I figured it had to be some good time.
Yeah, it was. I remember, because then obviously when I came home, that by the next season, it was finding out really quick that it was incredibly hard to keep up with the game because Australia just didn't have back then the amount of accessibility to the games. Now I can watch any game I want live on TV now in Australia. Back then it was one game a week you would have to kind of settle for, and the rest of it just sort of try and piece it together from articles and stats and highlights and that kind of thing. But yeah, before too long, I was right into the grind of 3 a.m. Mondays for the for the Eagles games, and yeah, that's really been the story of being an Eagles fan all the way over here.
I think that's the kind of the cool part of all of this, right? Like the internet and the iPhone and everything else, and eventually the NFL saying like, okay, we need to start televising this in Australia and Europe, and let's go over there and start to grow it. It's why you were hanging out in Vince Quinn's truck one night. Like,
that's
it just kind of, you fast forward about 15 years later, and then we're hanging out in South Philly, tailgating. You bring a bottle of rum to me, which I still have the empty bottle of for some reason. I look at it and I want to remind you of like, Nanks, like one day we're going to meet again, And from there, everybody just kind of develops these. That's why I love this part, right? Like we just kind of sit here and we develop all these friendships from everywhere. The simple fact that you were trying to become a bouncer and just like, I'll become an Eagles fan. It's just like, we all have those fun stories. I got dragged out here from Iowa, so I don't have any excuses. My family moved out here. I saw a cheesehead get beat up my first game ever at the vet. I was like, all right. This seems cool.
Yeah.
They don't win, but they're mad. So I was like, all right, I like this. This is fine.
And also, you don't want to, I got the vibe very quickly over there. If you're not with them, you're against them of thing, especially if you're going to be living in the city. But even just before I came to Philly and saw you guys for that game, I watched the previous week's game in New Orleans and just happened to find a handful of other Eagles fans in the same bar watching the same game. But on the other half of the bar, watching a different game, was a bunch of Cowboys fans. Just on a random Sunday in New Orleans, it was this close to punch-ons between Eagles and Cowboys fans. We can't help ourselves, it seems, the Eagles fans. You're either with us or against us.
Thank you for joining the show. Thanks for giving us all your thoughts. And any final ones, actually, before we get on out of here?
Oh, just thanks to you as well, John. Thanks for everything you did for me and my friends when we were in Philly to come and see that game. We all had such a blast, and it was such a unique experience to get over there and experience what it really is to be an Eagles fan, because most of my Eagles fandom is in a living room at 3 a.m. when it's still dark outside and I'm staring up at a really unproductive Monday. And for everything you do, with the Discord, shout out to all the guys on the Discord. It's such a fun hang and such a great community of people to just talk birds with and, have people to jaw with during games and just, overanalyze the shit out of everything throughout the year and so on. So, look, thanks so much for everything you've done with that, man. This has been a super fun chat. I'm thrilled to have been able to do it.
Absolutely, man. There's hats coming your way. We finally figured out international shipping, so I appreciate you being on the show, man. And absolutely, if just like Nick said, if you're a sicko that likes to stare up at, it's 3 a.m. here too. We're doing the same thing, by the way. It's not, I know you're watching it live at 3 a.m., but we still have the 3 a.m. stare of like, what the fuck just happened, or I can't believe that just happened. So we're all connected, no matter what. I appreciate it, man. We will all talk to you soon. This is Watching the Birds. Later, guys.